All right, hello, and welcome to this little PD pop on prompt crafting with AI, refining and going deeper. So, my name is Kyle Klein. I am the Director of Digital Learning at Twin Lakes School Corporation in Monticello, Indiana. There is my Twitter, and I can see that my image is broken, so that's great, but that is my Twitter/X handle if you would like to follow along and continue the conversation beyond today. There's a nice little pic of my family. So I have a seventh grader, 10th grader, and now I have a 13th grader. So I'm a freshman in college. But my background, this is my 11th year as a digital coach. I taught for 13 years between Lafayette Jeff and Twin Lakes High School for math. And then for 5 years, from 2015 to 2020, I went to Delphi Community Schools as a math coach and tech coach. And then 2020, I came back to Twin Lakes as my director of digital learning role. So this is a lot of fun. AI is one of those tools that I feel is really, really impactful. And it's going to be such a huge monumental change in education. And it's just one of those tools that we can't ignore. So there's been a lot of other things that have come through education thinking this is the next big thing, this is going to be it, and this is what's going to solve all our problems. I'll tell you right now, AI is not going to solve all of your problems. However, it can make a lot of the activities you do, a lot of activities that you create for students, more engaging, and you can get them thinking at a much higher level as well. So in order to do that, you want to use AI as a thought partner and as a collaborator, and you want to give it some ideas where you're going to be able to, you're going to want to be able to use it to help your kids think, much deeper. Give them ideas, or they can use AI to be able to learn something in a different manner. Or if they're struggling with something, they're going to be able to ask AI to help it give them an explanation that may make it a little bit simpler for them. Create quizzes and flashcards so they can study and prepare for exams. All kinds of things. Different ways that AI can help out our students. So in order to do that, we're going to have to be able to prompt our AI efficiently and effectively. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So here's our agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about the different variety of LLMs. That's a large language model. That's like your ChatGPT, your Gemini, things like that. We're going to have a little fun with an activity that you can go into Padlet, and actually you can do an activity in Padlet that works with, you can improve your prompting skills as well. It's a lot of fun. We'll talk about refining prompts, and then hopefully you'll have enough tools you'll be able to create for yourself. So which large language model do you use the most? Typically when people think of AI, they think straight into ChatGPT, and that's not true. ChatGPT is not the all-seeing AI that some people think it is. ChatGPT was just the first one that came out that was really available for people in the general population. So AI has actually been around since the 1950s and 60s. Crazy. First time it was ever really created was over 60 years ago. And so it took another 55, 57, 58 years before it could come out to the general public. Lots of things you can say about AI, but I do know that it is one of those most impactful tools that we can use in education. So there's also other large language models, Copilot, which is by Microsoft, Gemini, that's the one I use most, that's from Google. I like because I can just keep everything within my Google Drive, everything within one environment with using Google. There's also Claude, and there's some others that you may use also. But let's see. I'm going to mainly use Gemini today. Okay, so there is a shortened URL. If you want to try this at some point on your own, feel free. But this is padlet.com/Mr. Klein TL/perfect summer getaway. And if you click on this activity, what you're going to be able to do with this activity is you're going to be able to actually use AI to create an image of your perfect summer getaway. So you'll see that there's quite a few here that are already created that have been added, and some of them have the prompts. People were supposed to put the prompts, but not everybody did. So you're supposed to put your prompts in here and see what you get with your image. Now, how do I get these images? So you go down here to the post, the plus sign, and it's probably not going to show up as your first option. So you click on this plus 14, and in the middle is AI image. So I'm going to click on AI image. And if I choose that, it says, it gives you a little prompt box, write what you want to draw. So I'm getting ready to head out for spring break. So I'm going to say, what do I want to draw? So I want to say a family of 5 on a beach in Florida. Okay, this is very, very basic, and we'll just see what happens. It should give you, I believe, 4 different images that you can choose from. However, if I wanted to be more specific, oh, this is funny. Okay, this is funny. So here's a family of 5. Here's only 4. Here's a family of 5 in the water. Here's a family of 5, but it's just the dad and the kids. So notice how it also has different options, where it has like a realistic image, another realistic image, but then you have some others that are in a different format. So you could actually write your prompt to be in a certain format, like a retro scale. You could have it in a watercolor painting. You could have it ultra realistic, so it looks real life. Those are things you can add into your prompt to make it look a little different. So I'm going to say, make this image in the let's see, look like a painting. So I can add those in there. Include a father, mother, 2 daughters, and a son in the image. So we'll see if it does a better job. If I hit enter again, we'll see if it does a better job being a little bit more specific for what we are looking for. So, okay, so we have a father. Oh, we're missing the son in a couple of these. So son, S-O-N. So we have some families of 4. So still, like, it's not perfect, right? It's okay. I can keep prompting it. I can keep asking it until I get what I want. You don't always necessarily get what you want on the first try. However, the more specific you are, the better it's going to be. So let's see what you can create on your own. So remember, this is padlet.com/Mr. Klein TL/perfect summer getaway. Go to that URL and you should be able to test out the Padlet. So let's look at our next slide here. So there are a lot of people that have shared out different acronyms to help remind you of what you should be putting in your prompts, how to make your prompt. The very first one that really came out was by Dan Fitzpatrick, from AI for Educators author. He also has just an amazing website, a blog, a podcast, short podcast you can listen to, a lot of great stuff. So he came out with a prep framework, and that is where you prompt it, you give your AI a role. So you want to make sure you tell them, hey, I'm a 3rd grade teacher in Indiana teaching telling time. And so you always want to add in that in Indiana. I always tell people, make sure you add that in there, because then that's going to give the AI an idea that you should be putting in. It's going to be pulling in those Indiana standards with telling time. Be explicit. Okay, be explicit with the instructions. When I first started prompting with AI, I would just say, give me a lesson plan on telling time. Okay, very general, very general. Well, my results were very general. Okay, think about the things that you would want to include in a lesson plan. You have what the time frame is, who it's for. This is for 3rd graders. What state are you in? Do you want to include scaffolding? Do you want to include lesson objectives? What form do you want those lesson objectives? Like I wills, we wills? Do you want to be students will be able to? What kind of format do you want? You can also include, I need station rotation activities. I need a variety of prompts for questioning for my students of, do they want, I want more than a DOK 1 question. So give me some examples of DOK 2s and 3s. Think about all the things you would love in a lesson plan. That's where you need to be explicit. Parameters. Okay, so they talk about parameters. Do you want this in like a bulleted list? Do you want it in a table? Do you want it in a format with timestamps? What's going to work out for you the best? After you are done, then there's this ACE framework from Holly Clark and Matt Miller. And ACE stands for Awareness, Critique, and Exploration. So this is what, when you and your students, if they're using AI as well, This is what you should do when you get your prompt and you get your results. Okay, think about the awareness. Think about how does that really affect, what does it look like with your images, or with any images it gives you, with the lesson plan. Okay, critique it. Critiquing is the most important thing, and this is something that we really need to be able to teach our students when they're working with AI, because they will be, right? Whether it's in your classroom, whether it's at home, whether it's a couple years down the road, and a different, when they're older, depending on what ages you teach, they need to be able to critique the responses. This is where students working with AI is going to really help out. This is where the students' higher level thinking is really going to come into play. And this is where we can push kids. A lot of people are worried about students using AI because they're not going to think. Well, if they take the first result and they just use AI as an answer getter, then yes, then that's what they're going to get. And our kids are not going to get smarter. But if they learn to critique the AI, if they learn to question it, to ask AI for its sources, that is where they're going to be able to really step up their thinking on their end. And the last one is E for exploration. Try asking AI for extensions of things. Like, what are ways that they can take their results, extend it into other areas, and just, they need to explore with the AI, right? So let's look at my favorite type of prompting. So when I started, like I said, when I first started prompting, I was very general, and I would give it like maybe a sentence, maybe two of a prompt. Well, I couldn't really figure out like how I wanted to really explain to the AI what I wanted to be more specific, until I actually joined a webinar from Google, and it was about parts prompting. So PARTS, persona, act, recipient, theme, and structure. So we're going to go through each of these, and then hopefully this will help you when you start using AI a little bit more, getting more of what you want from the very beginning, your first iteration, get a better response. That way you don't have to keep asking for more things after that. So we have a persona, act, recipient, theme, and structure. So when we talk about persona, you should always give your AI a role, right? What person, what role does it have to become? So in this case, there's a few bulleted examples here. You're a superintendent of a K-12 school district in Des Plaines, Illinois. You're a first grade general education teacher. You're the assistant or administrative assistant to the director of curriculum instruction in the K-12 school district, or you're a bilingual program coordinator for K-12 school district. Give it a role. Okay, whatever your role is that you want to assume. And sometimes, like when I'm using it, I don't give it a role of director of digital learning. Sometimes I'll say, you are a lesson plan collaborator for third grade teachers in Indiana. You're a sixth grade teacher, or you are a writing feedback specialist. I apologize for the bells. Obviously, I'm recording this during a passing period, so that's great. All right, so that's P for persona. So let's look at the act. Act is what do you want it to do? So this is the reason why I love this example from Google. It takes what the persona was. You're a superintendent, you're a first grade teacher, and then it adds the next piece of act. Right after the back to school newsletter, write a unit plan on a standard, understand place value. Anytime you ask for a lesson plan, make sure you say you're in Indiana, state what the standard is. You don't have to put all the words for the standard. It may have a follow-up question if you want to be specific, but you could say AL.L.1, 3.G.2, anything like that, okay? So make sure you include those standards as you go through your prompts. So let's look at the R. So R is going to stand for your recipients. So who's your audience going to be? So who is going to be the recipient of your prompt that you're going to be using? So in this case, once again, this is why I love this. It gives you the P. So you're a superintendent, you're a first grade teacher. It includes the act, write a drafted back school newsletter, write a unit plan. And then the R is with an intended audience of parents and guardians. This is for the superintendent. And then for instructing first graders. Okay, if you're a first grade teacher, yeah, you might be instructing first graders, but it could also be something you're sending to your parents. So that's why it's still important to know who the recipients are, if it's for the kids, the parents, the admin, anything like that. T, then it's going to be your theme. So it's always good to have a theme in here. You don't have to put a theme. You could just have PARS, which is fine because I'm a golfer, so I like pars. You don't have to put a theme here, but sometimes it's nice because if you're trying to really engage your kids, maybe you have a bunch of Roblox users, maybe you have some Minecraft students, maybe you have students that, or you're learning about the oceans and you're learning about different kinds of fish. Maybe you're learning about habitats. Okay, your theme could be about your different habitats, like the Sahara, the savannah, anything like that. Put a theme in there to really spice it up if you like. And then S is going to be your structure. So for your structure, this is, notice how this prompt has gone from like one little sentence to a big paragraph, right? Your results are going to be so much better than if I would have just typed in, write a draft of the back to school newsletter. If I just put that in, that's going to be very, very general. AI is just going to take that generality and it's going to make sure that when it gives you its output, you're going to get a very general output. And you're going to like, oh, this is not what I want. I'm going to have to go through, type in more things that I want. Be specific from the get-go. So in this case, it says for the superintendent, the back to school newsletter, use headings, subheadings, important dates to know, message from the student. You're going to get an excellent option here. So let's try it out. We're going to go over here to in the Gemini. So let me go here to Gemini. So this is what you can use whatever you want. I'm just going to use Gemini here because this is my favorite tool. So I could, if I move these around, you have, if I click on these three lines, you have a new chat, gems, my stuff. You can see all of your old chats in here. I really wish they would add in some folders because I have a lot of chats here. Once I get into Gemini, this is where I can just start putting in my prompt. So if I just say, write a lesson plan on telling time. Okay. If I say just write a lesson plan, this is going to be pretty basic. In fact, it's going to give me a grade level that is not even in the standards. So for Indiana. So if I look through this, I'm a lesson plan, duration, here's my objective, here's my materials. So pretty good overall general response. I like the hook. I like where it talks about what a clock looks like. If you ever think about it, about the only place you ever have an analog clock is in schools and the doctor's offices. So two places a lot of our kids don't like to be. So I always think this is such a rough lesson for our poor kids. It has some guided practice, the I do, we do. It has an activity, okay, not too bad, a reference table, even gives you the pro tip. Here's a wrap up and assessment. Here's what I like about Gemini, and I believe ChatGPT does this also. It will actually prompt me with the next step. So I don't have to just be like, oh, okay, that's all right. Would you like me to generate some practice word problems or times up quiz to go along with this? That may be something you want. But when I go back through this is very, very general because I wrote a very, very general prompt. Okay, so let's go through the parts prompt and let's type in what we really want. So we're going to say you are a third grade teacher in Indiana. You are teaching, let's see. Oh, sorry. Let's go with our act. So we're going to say create a 45-minute lesson plan for telling time on an analog clock. So this is where I'm going to be super specific, okay, with things that I want. So with my act, okay, I have a 45-minute lesson plan. I'm going to have my recipients, my theme, and then my structure. So I'm going to actually include more here in my act. I'm going to say include the following: a hook, direct instruction, group work for, we're going to say for for groups of 2 to 3 students. And Melissa, you could probably write this even better if you want. I want, let's see, what else I want? I want strategies to reach my multilingual students that speak Spanish and very little English. Okay, so let me say that. I also want to include a station rotation activity. I know this is 45 minutes, right? I'm just thinking of all the things you could try to jam into a 45-minute lesson here. Station rotation activity with 4 stations, 2 are digital and 2 are non-digital. A quick exit ticket, and we'll just kind of stick with that, okay? So I put a lot of things in here. I just want you to see the power of what happens when you ask for all these different things. I'm going to say, and a quick exit ticket. So that is my act. So the recipients, I'm going to say this is for 3rd grade students that, let's see, in, what do I want to say? 3rd grade students in Indiana. No, 3rd grade math students. That's what I want to say. That are learning telling time for the first time. All right. So theme. Ooh, let's make this a Minecraft theme. Make this a Minecraft theme. And then finally, my structure, that's my S. Okay, that's my S. So structure include headings, subheadings, timestamps, and bulleted lists. All right, look at that. We got a whole paragraph here. Hopefully what we get is we're going to get something better from the very beginning. So I'm going to go ahead and hit start. And notice I'm also using my fast options. In Gemini, you can choose the fast, the thinking, the pro. And I believe you only have a limited amount with the pro. So I only use that if I'm doing coding or some sort of more like extensive math, like a little higher level math. Thinking is not too bad, but a lot of times you're going to get pretty good answers with the fast. So here we go. Hello, as a fellow Indiana educator, I know how energetic 3rd grade classroom could be, especially if you mention Minecraft. So here is the standard. Look at that. I said, because we're in Indiana, I didn't even tell them 3.m.3. Boom, there it is. So there's my standard. So here's math, time, 45 minutes. All right. Here is my hook. Oh, the creepers are coming. Ooh, that's a good one. Steve, talking about Steve. Crafting the clock. Here's our 10 minutes of direct instruction. We have a visual aid, multilingual strategy. Great, that's what I wanted. Here are the station rotations. So it looks like they're going to rotate every 6 minutes. So here's the activity. This is a digital one. Here's a non-digital one. Here's a digital. Here's a non-digital. Notice how it still is pulling in that Minecraft theme that we want to use. Boom, boom. Love it. Love it. Here's their tasks. In this case, here's with their non-digital. Looks like they're giving you some of this ML support. I could actually ask for Station 2 because they don't give any multilingual support for Station 2 that's non-digital. I could actually ask to add in a multilingual support for Station 2. Okay, let's just ask. Let's just ask it. Add a multilingual support for Station 2. All right, let's see. So it's going to kick back out. Should have most of the same similar things, but since it is a non-digital, I want to make sure I have that multilingual support. So here we go. Let's see where to go. Where to go? Here are my supports that's giving me. So okay, a little bit better. Oh, here we go. Would you like me to draft a printable crafting guide? Yes, please. That'd be great. Here are some other things. You could ask for us to rewrite the entire lesson plan with those. So actually, maybe I should do that. So if I go up here and I want to say rewrite the entire lesson plan, but include, we're going to say added, but include a multilingual support for Station 2. Okay, so what happens if we do that? So if we update that, and this should also, here we go. This gives us our full activity again. This is lovely. Let's see if for station rotations, here's Station 2, ML enhanced non-digital. Okay, great. Oh, it gives us a bilingual cheat sheet and audio support. Love it. So much nicer. Sentence frames for this one. Love it. Exit ticket and our summary of these support strategies. So you have to keep working with it to get it exactly how you want. But a lot of times the way I love using AI is it is a great thought partner where it's going to give me a lot of different activity I may not have thought of on my own. So it does say here, would you like me to print out the specific bilingual cheat sheet? yes, I would. I always like to use proper language though, so I'm going to say, or manners, so I'm going to say yes, please. So here is my cheat sheet. So when I am in, it gives me an option to export to Sheets. I really don't want to use Google Sheets. So what I can do is it's going to say, it gives you some suggestions, but maybe I want this to be printed on a Google Doc. There's a couple different ways you can do this. One is when you go down here to your three dots, you can export all of this to a Google Doc. Okay, you can export it right there. That's pretty spectacular. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to use some of these tools down here. So you have down on the bottom, you have a plus button and you have the tools. So if we go to tools, what I do is there are different options. Guided learning is if a student's using or you are using Gemini and you're trying to learn something, maybe you're teaching something new and you're not real sure about it. So guided learning can walk you through that process of how to learn that skill. Creating images, that's pretty straightforward. Create music, that's new. That's pretty straightforward. Deep research, that can be used for if you are, if you're looking for something, you're going to be doing a presentation, you're going to be, giving information, you have to write a paper, anything like that. That's going to be deep research. Canvas is my favorite because Canvas helps you. It'll open up a side window. It'll be totally editable, but with the Canvas, I use that whenever I want to print something off. Okay, so let's look at this. Let's go back up here I'm going to take my original prompt that we had. So I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to stay in the same chat. So let me go up here. Here's my original prompt. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to paste it down here. However, I'm also going to click on tools. I'm going to choose Canvas. And when we choose Canvas, notice how it puts out here on the right has Canvas in blue. And what's going to happen is this is going to open up a little bit of a side window, and it's going to be a little bit, I'm going to say probably a little bit better is what I would like to say here. So, and it's going to turn things into a much better format. You also still have your entire chatbot here on the left, so you can keep chatting. But as I go down through here, all of this can be edited also. So I could make this 50 minutes. Maybe I want to change, maybe I want to rewrite my objectives as I will and we will. So that's what I'm going to type here. I'm going to say, let's move this. Rewrite the lesson plan with the objectives written as I will and we will statements. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter. We'll see. Watch, it's going to do a little editing over here. It's going to tell me what it changed. So here we go. Here's our learning objectives. Oh, we will and I will. Love it. Okay, once again, all of this is editable. When you are done, if you're like, okay, this looks fabulous, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to check over here if it's going to ask me if it wants me to make anything. I'm going to say no right now. So I could either print this directly from here, or I can share and export to Google Docs. So if I export to Docs, I can do that. So let's see what this looks like. It pops up. It's taking its time. Here we go. In Google Docs. Once again, Docs is obviously editable. So I can edit any of this, get rid of these, make some changes. And here we're going to look at some things, maybe something else we could ask. So there's some other options that are here in Gemini that you might want, but I'm going to actually go into the chat and I'm going to ask to create a Google Slides presentation for the direct instruction. And so I'm going to hit enter and it's going to go through. I don't know if you knew this or not, but Gemini will actually create Google Slides for you. These slides can also be exported straight into actual Google Slides where you can edit them. I like using this basically as a template. It's kind of like going into Canva and then using it as a template, maybe for anything that, as a good starting block, right? So we'll see what it comes out with. I can also, depending on what the slides look like, I can go back into the chat and I can keep asking it for it to make adjustments and it will keep doing that. But I love being able to come up with a lesson plan and then going into checking it, getting it exactly how I want, and then going back over to the chat and have it create some slides. So let's see what we have here. So, okay, time to mine. Telling time on an analog clock even tells me what my standard is. So I have 13 slides. I can go through these slides here if I want. There's my we will and I will. I love because they also add some images in here. This is cool. This is your hook. Steve is deep in a dungeon. And so here we go. We have the zombies. Obviously, you can open these and you can edit them as it sees fit, but this looks pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie. I love how it actually put in some images from Minecraft and everything. And look, we even had English time and Spanish time. It's talking about, it even put the different languages on the same slide. So when we're talking about vocabulary. So I could go ahead and export this to slides if I want. I'm not going to at the moment. But there's something else I wanted to show back up here. If I just close this out and if I go back into my lesson. So this is my lesson here. Sorry, that went back to slides. So we can go back into our lessons. Things we can actually create within our lesson plan, though. There's a lot of other things you can do with those lesson plans. If I go back in here, let's see, I want to see, not show my thinking. Well, why is this not showing? Oh, there we go. Scrolling the wrong way. Sorry. Here's my lesson plan. If I go back into my lesson plan, it's going to open this window. Underneath this create button, there are some other options that can be created also. So you can actually have it create a web page, an infographic, a quiz, flashcards, an audio overview. So think about your audio learners. You could create an audio overview of this lesson, share it with your students. I'm going to create just an infographic. Let's just see what it creates. I love creating the web pages from anytime I'm in Gemini, because then I can create like a performance task for an iLearn activity. I can create review activities, there's a fun math game that every answer came out as either a 6 or a 7. So the kids had to go through, they had to do the math, the computation skills, and it came out as a 6 or a 7. I've created some create your own adventure games through Gemini as well. And I don't have to do the coding. It is so amazing. I absolutely love it. So we're going to see what it creates here with an infographic. Since it's based on the lesson plan, it's probably going to be more about how the structure is. But you know what? We can be surprised. Let's see what happens here. So here's our infographic. Notice how it's doing all the code work. All these lines that I could never, ever come up with on my own. And then it's going to end up and give us a preview here. So it's still scrolling through, coming up with designing an infographic that it thinks is going to look good for this activity. I'm hoping it comes out in a Minecraft theme, but we will see. I may have to ask that again, but we'll see what it comes up with. Still coding. Oh my gosh, we're over 200 lines now. This is amazing. There's no way I could ever create an infographic in this amount of time, right? And it feels like it's kind of waiting forever. But let's see what we get. Our time to mine infographic. Okay, so we have some emojis. Nice font. So here's an analytical breakdown of the math lesson. So we have our instructional timeline. So we have the hook, our direct instruction. So it's talking about how much time we're going to have by giving us this graph. Pretty cool. Concept mapping. So it's talking about our different activities. I love it because it did kind of put it a little bit in a Minecraft theme. But these are all things that you could change. But this is just the power that you have within Gemini. This is called vibe coding. So if you actually want to create and design other activities, you can do this here in Gemini. You can do it in Claude, but you can also do it in like Canva AI as well. But this is pretty cool. If I want to create an activity, maybe I want to create another activity that goes along, or maybe one of my digital station rotations would be something that I create in here. I could do that right within Gemini. So, all right, wonderful. So I'm going to go back over here to my presentation and just kind of wrap up a little bit here. So when we look at our parts presentation, okay, PARTS, we have our persona for P, act for A, recipient for the R, you have your theme, and then you have your structure. So this is just another example. Okay, give it that role. You are an 8th grade history teacher. Give it the act, write a lesson plan that'll help my students achieve reading primary documents. Huge standard within the history classes. Here's my audience is 8th grade history students, and it even talks about what kind of experience, what kind of abilities they have with reading primary documents. The theme and then a structure. Okay. I love following this parts prompting. It helps me when I am trying to create something, whenever I am prompting within Gemini. So just take some time, use the parts prompting, go through those PARTS. Even if you write out P dash and then you write out like what the persona is, and then underneath it A dash, write out the act. If you want to make sure that you have all of those parts in there, you can do that. It'll recognize it as one large prompt. But get in and practice. The more you prompt, the better you will be, the faster it will come to you, the more you use it. Okay. So I hope this was helpful. There is the URL down here on the bottom, tinyurl.com/promptcrafting AI. That is a capital A and a capital I. You'll get this presentation here if you want to come back through it. Once again, my name is Kyle Klein. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out on my email or to reach out via Twitter. I'm always happy to help. So have a great day and happy prompting.